we just lost a series for me.
Lillard, long-range three. It's good! At the buzzer! The Portland Trailblazers have been eliminated 4 of the last 5 years in the first round, and that is it.
A look at a three, but it is not his night.
Is that Damian Lillard needs to get the hell up out of Portland.
You know what I've learned after this whole Dame situation? His loyalty to Portland has been his downfall to not winning a championship yet. And it's not just him, other guys like Isaiah Thomas and Bradley Beal had the same problem. The problem with loyalty. If the ultimate goal is to win a championship, I don't think the pride of being loyal should hold players back. That's why I don't have a problem with the crazy player movement in recent years. Once a guy stays too loyal to one franchise, that franchise will dump them the moment a better player is available. Back in 2017, Isaiah Thomas was having an MVP caliber season on the Celtics. He injured his hip in a pretty bad way and his goddamn sister passed away right around the playoffs. But the Celtics told IT that he was okay, and this man just worsened the injury as time went along. Why do you think Kawhi was so unhappy with the Spurs medical staff? Kawhi just didn't trust the staff telling him to play when he didn't feel like he was ready. And guess what? Once Kyrie Irving requested a trade from Cleveland, Boston came rushing and just shipped this man Isaiah Thomas. And that was pretty much the last we heard of star Isaiah Thomas. I mean, since this man was loyal, the C's did not hesitate whatsoever to trade him in a heartbeat. If organizations are shipping players left and right with no care, I don't understand why players aren't held to the same standards. And back to Dame, he's been giving everything to Portland for his entire career. He's led them to the postseason 8 times and they've never gotten out of the West. Portland has given him absolutely no reason to stay, and they've honestly surrounded him with the most mid teams I've ever seen. And other guys that are considered loyal like Steph Curry or Giannis at least have teams that actively give them pieces to go out and win. And that's exactly what they do, each of them having their own ring. Meanwhile, Lillard is stuck with his second best player being part-time Yusuf Nurkic. You have to realize dude is in his 30s and he doesn't have much of his prime left. He's been one of the best players in the league, but this garbage organization can't do anything to utilize that. Even if we rewind time, history has always been the same. Reggie Miller in the 90s never got past that hump to win a ring. Sure, he made the finals, but let's be honest, Indiana has no chance against a Lakers team with Shaq and Kobe. It's not that he couldn't go all the way, it's just that Indiana never paired him with a co-star till 2005 with Ron Artest. But by then, it was way too late. That's why I respect teams like the Bucks, since they actually recognize they have a superstar on their hands. So they went out and finessed the Pels for Jrue Holiday, who's been arguably the second best player on the Bucks this year. I don't blame teams for trading away players like that either. Their only goal is to get better, and if that's what's needed to win, so be. But I feel a big part of loyalty is honestly just pride. I mean, look at it. You bring a championship home to your city after years of hard work with a storybook ending. Players will pride themselves on their loyalty, thinking that's the only way to win. Like Dame, let's be honest. Some of that loyalty he has to Portland is just his personal pride, since staying with one franchise just gives stars a good rep. But at this point he has to make a decision. And I think he's chosen to stay in Portland, which will mean he's never going to get a championship. It's honestly sad how after a decade this incompetent mess has failed to at least bring a finals appearance to Portland. And pride isn't the only reason why players stay loyal. It's also money. For those of you who don't know, the NBA introduced the Supermax in 2017 to combat the rise of player fluidity between teams. The Supermax contract is given to those players who have stayed on the team that drafted them after a rookie deal or an extension of some sort. It was basically to reward those who stayed loyal. The Supermax pays crazy money, upwards of $40 million a year. But now with how inflated contracts are becoming, even guys barely getting their rookie extensions like Luka Doncic are grabbing bags of $200 million. A prime example of a player staying loyal due to money is Bradley Beal. He's been a Wizard his entire career and it's painfully clear he's not happy with how horrible the team is. But the thing is, he got offered a bag that he ultimately decided to take over a spot on a contending team. The contract was worth $70 million over 2 years with the player option next season. And once Beal waits till next year to sign an extension, he'll be eligible for a 5-year, $250 million offer. That's $50 million a year for context.
Damn!
And you can even look at Dame. He's making $178 million over 4 years with an average of $44 million a year. It's honestly annoying. This man locked himself with Portland for at least till 2024 contractually. I mean, by the year he signed it, which was 2020, it was painfully obvious that the Blazers weren't getting anywhere. And he hasn't even requested a trade. But he's been dropping faint talk about his disappointment with his organization. But it's his loyalty that has brought him to the situation. If this whole dilemma was flipped, you better believe that Dame would have been shipped years ago. And one thing that I respect about players like LeBron is that he's smart and isn't blinded by loyalty to a team. As much as hate as he gets for this, you can't deny it's benefited his career overall. If he stayed with that garbage Cleveland team, do you really think he would be a 4-time champion?
Oh, hell no!
Going to Miami might have been controversial for people, but those same people would have bashed LeBron for his lack of accomplishments. Why players aren't called out more for this blind loyalty is beyond me. Like, I get Dame is in a sad situation, but he has himself to blame since he clearly could have left Portland but chose the bag and the loyalty. It's just basic accountability. Another player that almost fell into the loyalty trap was Clyde Drexler in the 90s. For those of you who don't know, Drexler was basically a toned down version of MJ, and he even made the finals in 92. But his teams were never great and he was always the sole star on those teams. I'm sorry, to win a championship, you almost always need another star. The only guys that went solo like that were Dirk Nowitzki in 2011 and Hakeem Olajuwon in 1994. But those are rare occasions and they both had an amazing rotation of role players at least. The only championship Drexler won was in 1995 when he paired up with Hakeem on the Rockets. He was always one of the best players in the whole league in his prime, but his incompetent organization never surrounded him with adequate pieces. Looks like Portland just has a problem with getting their superstars good pieces. And I'm not saying that loyalty never works, but in the situations in which it does, the organizations are competent enough to recognize their stars need good pieces to win. Some players become blinded by pride and money so much that they fall into the trap of blind loyalty. Once they waste their prime, it hits them like a freight train. I'm sorry, I used to say Dame is a poor superstar on a bad team. But if you delve deeper, it's a lot deeper than that. Loyalty is looked at positively. You know, you'll get cut slack for not winning. But if there's a chance to win a championship and cement your legacy, the player has a choice. Some choose a sacrifice and others choose loyalty. And that is the loyalty trap of the NBA.